Hello, fam.
So yeah, today is going to be our last Only Real Fans podcast for the foreseeable future. I wouldn't go so far to call it a series finale, but definitely a hiatus for a long time.
Yes, we have a lot of big, exciting things coming up, and we just got to dedicate the time to get those up and running, and I think you're going to enjoy them much more than our podcast, and you'll see why when that day comes, or those days come.
Yeah, Oh, go ahead, Bri.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening to us ramble about movies and interviewing people and whatever else we talked about.
Yeah, it was actually really fun, and the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of upset that we're stopping it, because I've always enjoyed just talking shop with you about movies. But I don't think that's going to stop. Me and you we talk about movies all the time. I'm sure we can continue doing our little fan club. We just might not be recording it anymore because it's just difficult to schedule.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we're a production company. We're a film production company, a series production company, commercial music videos. Like, we got to prioritize that. This started as like a way to keep us busy in the pandemic, but that's been over for a while, and there's a lot of work to be made.
Yep. We have to go outside for once.
Yes. I will say, not to give too much information about it, but next year we will be rolling out a new sort of project that will be kind of taking on the replacement of this podcast, more video centric, but definitely kind of its spiritual replacement, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very excited for it, man. Actually, that's probably the thing I'm most excited for.
Oh,
it's such a good idea.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast.
Yeah. The other huge idea I really want to make happen, but that's going to take a long time. This one, I know we can get started in a couple of months, so I'm very excited.
Exactly.
But that being said, whoever is listening out there, everybody, anybody,
somebody, just
you. Thank you so much, as Brian said, and please enjoy this episode of OnlyReelFans, where we'll talk about our recently released series, Play It By Ear.
Watch it all on YouTube.
It's free.
I mean, honestly, you change your look every freaking week.
I'm
pretty numb to it.
I had that mammoth for what, 2 months or something. Now I'm going the mustache look again with the sideburns, little 70s action.
No, you got to get the Lemmy look, where you get the mutton chops.
I did that before I shaved it. Of course, I got rid of the chin, and then
Did you scare Dom?
No. I scared Dom because she had no idea I was shaving. So she came inside, I did it really quick in an hour, and she came inside. She's like,
damn, it takes you an hour to shave that,
dude. That was hacking weeds. That was trimming. That was really trimming hedges. I had to take scissors to it first, and then after I took scissors to it, I had to use a razor with a 1 or 2 on it, and then after that I had to do another one with a 1, and then I had 3 razors that had sharper and sharper blades, and just kept going down, and bingo bango bongo,
and here we are, growing your mustache.
Yeah. Still don't want to look. I want to look like Lucas's older brother, who's going through his porn 70s phase.
Then you can have a cameo in season 2.
You actually look very much like an LA cool guy right now.
Yeah,
I would see you at a cool trendy spot in LA.
This collared shirt has a zipper. I'm wearing workout shorts that are too short and sandals. I mean, I'm ready to walk Venice Boulevard. That's all I'm saying.
Yo, you're hipster chic.
Yeah, hipster chic right now, man. That's exactly the look. Changing it up.
Because hipster chic is it kind of has become just 70s. It's very 70s at the moment.
Yeah.
But I dig it.
I dig it. I'm into the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Are we recording?
We are recording.
Yep.
Yeah. So we can really start wherever we want. What do we want to talk about? There's no structures here.
I love that you guys have been doing the podcast now for 2 years, and you're it's actually gotten less structured as we've gone on. It's not the usual trajectory.
If you listen to most episodes, if you listen to it in order, it starts a little too structured, and we're rigid and don't really know what to say, and then it slowly just gets more and more comfortable the less we organize it and keep it in some structure.
the more chatty it becomes.
Yeah. I think a good segue is that as Play It By Ear got more intense, we started phoning in these podcasts a little bit more because there was just
which is why we're recording this one like 3 months later than we wanted to, I think.
Yeah, because there's just so much. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a film company, right? So not a podcast place. So these were just meant to be for fun.
Yeah, we're not Barstool.
But I mean, I guess that we could start there. We could talk about when the idea for Play Beer started, but then when it started to get really intense. Because like I feel like every interview I've listened to from all of us, or every time we've talked about it, I've always gotten a different response on like when it started. Like when did it start? You know, because there's like a couple different moments I think on that timeline that really impacted. Okay, this is something we want to jump on. Does everyone want to talk about like when they think Play It By Ear started?
I think I want to start because Simon and our timeline always differs on this, but I think like I truly believe that it began in earnest when we because for a while, right, we were all meeting up and kind of shooting around ideas and kind of coming up with short scripts and stuff. But I would say that the project Play By Ear in its realized form began when Simon and I started working on the outline that I wrote in a flurry that one time. And so that was like 2020 and around May of 2020 is what I've always put on my resume too. And then because that summer Simon and I and you guys too, you remember we went on a road trip to try and see my family during the pandemic, and like we were doing scripts from the road. Like I specifically remember, Dylan, like we talked for one afternoon for like 3 hours, and we were talking about episode 3 because Brian had just done a really good draft of episode 3, and we were talking about like how to push it. And like it was, I remember we were in like Minnesota, and I just remember talking to you for like 3 hours in Minnesota.
But so that's like one answer of the question of when did it start, but then there's even previously to that, because I have a memory of having a call with Dylan and Brian, the two of you, to sort of brainstorm this long distance couple idea. I think it was pretty far off from having a title or having the title that we settled on.
Yeah, no title
at that point.
Just the idea.
Yeah, I remember having to leave because it was an early morning call and I didn't want to wake up Emily. So I walked down the street to the Coffee Bean to have this meeting with you guys because Emily wasn't involved in the project. I was like, I need to leave and go talk about it so I can let her sleep. It was like a Sunday. So that is the crazy thing.
Arguably the best decision, by the way, made was like when Sai's like, hey, do you think like Emily can come work on this project too? And we're like, yeah, sounds great. It'd be great to get female perspective on this love story, obviously. And if that...
It also wouldn't be here.
Yeah, if that didn't happen, we wouldn't have made the project. So that was probably the best decision, best question and best decision made on the whole journey, I'd say.
The parasite overtook the host at some points.
Way to ask good questions, Simon.
I think that question was probably preceded by a conversation with Emily and I where she was like, hey, like, I want to be on this project.
I was spending like so many hours on the weekend talking to you guys, and I was just like, fuck these wanks. Like, I remember I literally I used to be like, Simon's doing his circle jerk call. Like, I was so mad at you guys for taking away his weekends.
How do you think Catherine feels?
Yeah, I totally imagined it.
Well, yeah, it started as like this thing that started to pull in one by one more and more of our creative time and energy, and then it became the eye of the storm. At a certain point, it became the vortex of all of our creative energy. So I wonder for you two, what point you remember feeling like, oh, this is legit, this is real, this is something we're going to do, and this is going to be a ton of work. Like, where was that point for both of you?
I'd probably say probably around like May 2020, whenever like actually probably later than that, actually, like after that outline came about, like from you guys, that like when we were actually like doing storyboarding and whatnot, I feel like is when, or wait, maybe my timeline's confused. After we had like 6 actual like drafts that we were all happy with, because like we were doing so much like writing and like ideas and whatnot from like since 2019. So like I just kind of was like, I feel like we're just doing this for fun and just seeing what happens. But then once we got like past like the 6 scripts are like pretty done, then it felt like, all right, this is happening. This is real. Strap in.
I'd say it was pretty much when you called me and you gave me the outline. So not that far off in the timeline. Like I feel like like everything that happened before was almost just a way to keep us in practice of writing, or keep it in practice of like just pumping out ideas. And like I remember calling, I think either you, Sai, or both you and Brian, and just like I was sitting on the toilet and I was thinking like we should do a long distance thing because like that's what we're living right now, like, or something.
Was
like
this
that.
in your tiny apartment?
This was in my apartment.
The door wouldn't close in the bathroom.
No.
So you're sitting on the toilet with the door.
You're
open?
mistaking, sir. There actually was no door to the bathroom because I was very bohemian. It went with my 70s hipster look. There was no door. Just I wanted to put up beads between the bed and the toilet because that's all there was.
That would have been cute.
Yeah, no, I had a little Bluetooth speaker. This is so off the rails now. I had a little Bluetooth speaker in there in case you had to take a shit, so you could like blast whatever you loved so nobody could hear you. And if it really smelled bad, you had to go out of my balcony because apparently I could afford a balcony but no door in my fucking bathroom. But I remember thinking like, oh, we should do a long distance thing. But it was also accompanied with like many other ideas that we were all just pitching. And I feel like everything was just a writing sort of, exercise, just keeping us in practice. So Emily, you coming on and taking really the charge during COVID, like a year and a half later, which was a great time, at least for me, because I was getting paid and not working, which was great. And I had a lot of time to dedicate to something. But coming in with like, okay, here's the like inception of the idea, but now here's like an outline of like how I'd structure it. I remember talking on the phone for a good like hour and a half, and you're telling me like, this is the episodes, like this is what will happen. And all I pitched that was different really from like the structure of the show to like now is, can we change a couple titles to Dutch? Like Miss You Mean It became Miss Ya Mean It. And that was like that was really the difference in even the names of the episodes. The names of the episodes even stayed the same. I just don't know if we even had a title for the show yet. I know that Brian, you're the one that came out with the show title eventually.
Yeah. I don't remember when that happened.
No.
I think it was just literally
on,
like, it was whenever someone was like, what do we want to call this thing? And then like a week later, I came back with an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like it's funny because the outline for the show came at me all in a big jumble. Like it was like really finished by the time I started writing it. It was pretty insane. But it was because I was so inspired by Simon's short script that was like the practice for you guys. Like you guys were shooting around short scripts about a long distance couple, and his idea of a long distance couple like fumbling a phone sex session to me was so true, was so resonant.
Was that you, Sai? I always thought that was Emily.
Yeah.
I thought that was Emily's script. No, that's your side? Oh, wow.
That was Simon's script.
Yeah.
And I read it and I was like, this script is great. This is so good. I want to rewrite it. I want to do it again. And I want to like put it into a story. And that's kind of when all of the ideas came out. And then Simon and I fleshed out the outline that I presented to you was actually a combination of like, I had presented it to Simon first and we ran with it. And then we sent it to you guys.
Well, it's funny because I went back around the time that we released the show, season 1. I went back and did find the original script, sort of prototype beta of episode 1 that I had written. I think the date on it on the cover page was something like, October 2019, November 2019. So a very long time ago, and read through it and was like, oh, this is so fine. Like, you know what I mean? It was compared to what obviously the whole show became, but even the first episode, I was like, this was just barely the start. Like if you put that side by side with our final episode 1 script, or the episode in itself, the episode we made is so much better and so much more complex than the original thing that I think was maybe only like 8 pages or something like that. But so I think that was satisfying to me to go back and read this thing that I wrote that sort of started everything and be like, this is kind of bad. And it's so cool to watch it, to see now the full evolution and growth of it from this very sort of simple place that it started at.
Dude, that script was our demo tape.
I would honestly,
exactly.
I would honestly say, like, I remember enjoying parts of everybody's writing in that like first couple months, but I do remember that one standing out to be like our favorite one. Like, I think University was like, that's a great script. I'm happy that stayed in there till the end, you know. Maybe not so much for my performance, because I'm still getting questions about that, but in general, I really enjoy that whole concept stayed in there, especially as like our opening episode, you know.
It's funny. I was gonna say to Simon's question too. I know he didn't ask me, but I actually have a funny story about like when I realized it would be a butt ton of work. We were writing episode 5 at my parents' house in the summer of 2020, and I remember we were taking a shower together. And Simon, like, we were talking about how much work it was because we came off of a long writing session, like 7 hours. And
was it really that long?
Yeah, it was a long, like, it was a long day. And like he said something along the lines of like, yeah, this project will probably take us the next 5 years, and I'm ready to commit to that. Are you? And I remember I was like, 5 years? Like, I freaked out.
It wasn't far off.
Like, I was like, no, I don't want to do 5 years. Like, I was like, I can't do 5 years. I gotta, you know, like, I gotta move on, man. And
it's not the right way to think about a project, because it is true. If you can have that thought at the start of any major project, but it's probably a bad way to think about it, because you just get so freaked out thinking about that big of a number. You gotta take it one step at a time.
Especially because when you get older, that 5 years just flies so fast. Like, it doesn't even feel like 5 years that we really, like, it's gonna be 5 years in this fall that we actually talked about the concept. I actually still have a folder with all our original scripts, and they're dating back to like October, November time of 2018, which is crazy. So
2018?
No,
2019.
No, 2019.
So we're coming
really?
up on.
Nope. Here, I have A World Apart. The last time it was edited, January 5th, 2019. And we did this when I first moved to Holland. That's when I lived in that shitty little apartment in 2018, September to March.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Long.
I was right.
So Simon was right. He just said it at the wrong time.
Long time. Yeah. 5 years. I mean, and that just goes
but
quick.
for me, it's only been like, for me, I would say that it's only been 3-ish.
I agree. I feel like, I mean, look, we could say 5 years because it sounds huge. But the reality is that we kind of took a long break from it for a while and like wanted to do some other stuff. And I think that break was actually really important. Like, some of that was working on Drama Mama. Some of that was honing in on our own skills as like, you know, post-production, and you guys getting more into like production and like the daily grind of just Hollywood, and Brian, you learning more about just like management in general and marketing. That all that stuff helped us, I think, in the long run. But the actual idea 5 years ago, the actual work of it, I think you're right, Em, is like 3 years, which is, you know, that's still a long time.
Yeah, still a long
big
time.
chunk.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I really think that my favorite part about the whole experience is seeing absolute growth in the 4 of us in terms of partnership, being able to be quite honest and, you know, tell each other what we like and don't like, and be sometimes heated, but come back around full circle, understanding it's for everyone has the same intention. They just want it to be the best they can. Like, nobody's coming at it to spite anybody. It's really just because we care about this thing that we all created. But also seeing that we clearly just thrived in certain roles, you know, like each, like, and really like appreciating how that came about. I think the clearest really, like, early on, and Emma, I've always told you this, is like your ability to write and storytell is just very unique. So like the outline just was like the first part of like, wow, this is great. Like, and actually it's great because like, I love the idea. I want to be a part of it. I'm going to be a creator, but I didn't have to do all that work. That's amazing. Thank you for doing it. Right.
Producer life.
Yeah. But the same thing comes with like, Brian, your ability to manage a set and manage like a crew and like make sure that everything is done on time, and like make sure that all those I's are dotted and all those T's are checked and everyone's gotten their money and everything is like set up and ready to go for the day we get on. That was like invaluable in this like process, because we had to travel across the world. Like, if anything went wrong, we'd be screwed. If anything was a day late, like Simon and Emily be gone and we would be screwed on that. So just your ability to produce and manage an entire project like of this scale is huge. And I'd say like, Sai, your ability to direct, and like, and obviously your ability to direct too, but like you have to act. So half of your energy is like spent also thinking about your character. And Simon's job is to like oversee everything that's on page, making sure it's making sense on screen. And then just me in post, right? Like trying my best to like make sure everything was finished off.
I think what I would say for yours is being able to be in the present and in the future at the same time, that I really always noticed and was impressed by. I think throughout the whole process, but especially I think that becomes clear when you're on set and when you, Dylan, were acting, and being able to be completely in the moment. And then as soon as, and be performing as Lucas. And then as soon as, you know, we called cut, you were thinking about like, okay, so this is what I'm going to have to do in 3 hours as the DIT. This is what I'm going to have to do in 3 months as the editor. This and like making decisions about what we were going to do next, about what you were going to do next as an actor based on these other like personas that you were able to like look ahead and pop yourself into, because we all, I mean, wow, they were like, well, I know I'm going to have to do this at some point too. I'm doing this now, but I have to be this person later on. So like, how do I get from where I am now to that point where I have to be that person?
Yeah, for sure. I would argue that those are great qualities in an actor, even though you don't want to act again. You really got that natural talent.
Yeah, I don't know. I read some reviews where I think that Emily and Zisko really took the cake in terms of like the silver screen.
Everybody's a critic.
Yeah. Well, it was a fun experience, but I really think that like each one of us, like you're saying, we had to wear a lot of hats, and so like having to think or just plan out like how we're gonna be able to do that and dedicate enough energy so that you're not like dropping on one. You know, you're not dropping one spinning plate. Like, you're not like, fuck, my acting's crap, but I'm going to edit the shit out of it, right? Like, maybe just cut Lucas out. Who gives a crap? Like, that type of thing. But it was really, I thought it was really great to see us kind of grow as a team that really complemented each other in a lot of ways, but also just took on all those different sort of like pillars that make a project, like, and make sure that we were responsible for those, that you could, like, we could trust each other to do those things and make sure that it came out good. That was an awesome thing to see, you know. And I think I never want to work on a project differently. I want to have people that are really, even if we're not doing those specific things, I would want people with your guys' talent and knowledge overseeing those things, because I can trust you guys to make sure it's going to be good then, you know?
Yep.
That does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a huge weight off to just know that you can trust someone. And the only way really, you know, you can feel safe in trusting someone creatively and professionally is to have the experience of them showing up and doing a good job. You know what I mean? So and you have to, in any creative relationship, just like try it and move forward, and probably have some points where it feels dicey but then over time, the accumulation of, you know, everybody keeps showing up, everybody keeps working hard, and you start to see results, even if it's just like drafts of scripts and the stories coming together, or like, oh, we were able to raise this money. You know what I mean? I think I was wanting to ask the question of, for all of us, of at which point in the process did you feel the most uncertain that the project was actually going to come together, we were going to get to the finish line? But the opposite of that would be like seeing us all be able to pull off a successful crowdfunding campaign and look at the number and be like, oh, okay, we have money, so we can make something. Like, that's a clear equation. And that was because everyone kind of did their part and we trusted each other, to your point, Dylan. So yeah, I am also super proud of that for all of us for this whole project. It's a testament to that. But were there moments when it felt like it was all gonna crumble and fall apart?
100%.
Yes.
Well, honestly, I felt that way at the start of the crowdfunding campaign, because we had such a high goal of like 25K. Like, the once it launched, I like felt like I had nervous shits, because I was like, oh my god, if this goes bad, we're screwed. But we all came together and just did a fantastic job of making a compelling and engaging, you know, campaign that got people really invested without really like not knowing too much about the story, or like really what we were specifically going to do with it. But yeah, a lot of people, I would like send them the campaign, or like they donate or whatever. I'd send them like the magazine cover thing. They'd be hyped, like, oh, I can't wait for this now.
Yeah, I remember it was actually after the crowdfunding campaign when I had like a true doubt. I had a freak out, and we were on the call actually because we were deciding to push out the shoot by like 6 months, the first shoot in Amsterdam. And I just remember I was like, it's never gonna happen. If we don't do it, we're just gonna have to return all this money. You know, it's never gonna happen. And I don't know why, like, because throughout all of the crowdfunding campaign, I wasn't actually that worried. Like, Simon would come up to me every day and he would be like, what if we don't make it? And I was like, we'll make it. Like, we'll make it, or because we have to. Like, I just remember I kept saying that to him. I was like, we'll make it because there is no other choice. We must absolutely make it. And
well, I remember that kind of being like not really the argument, but more of like to help like dial you back from like that doubt that you were just talking about. We had to be like, well, we have the money from the crowdfunding campaign. Like, it's happening. It doesn't need to be right now, but it's happening.
I feel like it was all of the energy I had spent the month prior, like hyping up everybody, being like, we have to make it, so we'll make it. We just will make it. And then when, like, right after we got the money and then it was kicked out another 6 months, I was like, this is it. You know, like, if it's not the crowdfunding.
Well, I'm curious if you and Brian, or Dylan and you and Brian, have this same sort of thing, because Emily and I also have this where it's like, we're fine as long as only one of us is freaking out at a talk, because the other one can pull them back, and you just kind of take turns.
That's why I never want to do anything without a partner. Like, and I talked to Brian about this a lot. Like, I'm so fucking lucky to have Brian. Like, Brian is the most level-headed, kind of just like even keel dude. So whenever I'm going on rants or freaking out or being like, this is fucked, like, he's like, it's gonna be fine, man, or it won't. You know, it's very much ones and zeros to Mr. Riley. Like, it's gonna work, or it's
Brian,
not.
Do you have the moments
and then
where
there's
you're
Dylan.
freaking out? do you get to be scared and Dylan helps you out of it? I want that for you.
I can't think off the top of my head when it happened, play it by ear wise, but
in general, I think that happens. Like,
I've had moments though. Yeah, anytime. Wait. Like I've had them when it's like something's really getting, like, feels like it's getting like actually like disastrous, as opposed to like, yeah, this is shitty, but like, it'll be fine.
Generally, it's tipped in the scales like 80-20. Like, it's an 80% me, I'm freaking out, 20% Brian's freaking out, sort of thing. But I think I agree with Em. Like, the crowdfunding freaked me out a little bit, the setup for it. Because I remember, like, if we were going to get into a little bit of the times where we had some rocky roads or just moments where we weren't in sync and shit, like, that crowdfunding was stressful because everything that we had to do was now redirected towards the crowdfunding. Like, we had like watched seminars and watched people talk about it, and basically they said, if you don't put the dedication into this that you will put into your project, you're not going to make the money. Like, this is your first project. And that felt crazy to me. Like, it was so hard to do. And at the time, I was just like getting pounded at work too, like working LA hours and not like that, you weirdo. Like, no, I was just working LA hours and working Amsterdam hours and doing the crowdfunding thing. So I remember that freaking me out. But once it ran, like, once we had done all that prep, like as much as you can do, and then it ran, I felt, again, very like binary. Like, it's either going to happen or it's not going to happen. Like, there's nothing I can freak out about right now because there's no in between. Like, you know, just wait and see. If we get the money, we do it. And if we don't get the money, then we don't. That's simple. So that wasn't hard. It was, I agree with you, the scheduling stuff kind of like freaked me out a little bit, because I remember that was a huge, like, maybe week or two of like discussions between the four of us, because we pushed out LA. We were going to do LA in August, and we were like, we cannot do that. We were like, I cannot get out of here in August. Like, it's just not going to happen. We won't have time.
I think it was also like the general like film COVID restrictions were still like very high at the time, where it's like it just wouldn't make sense to do this right now.
I'm in hindsight so happy we took the extra time, because eventually the argument became like, we have the money, like, we can do this. The only thing that's now putting pressure on us is to feel like we have to do it now. And what freaks me out the most is not about having to give money back, because like, I know we're going to make it, but what freaked me out was like, are we going to make something that the people who donated can watch and be like, that was good? I didn't want to, like the biggest response that I got like was like, dude, that was like 10 times like higher caliber than dilettantes. I'm like, yeah, that was the point. Like I don't want people thinking that was the level they were investing in. I wanted them to come in thinking like we actually created something that they're like, holy shit, that was pretty impressive. And I think we did do that. So I'm happy we took the extra time.
Absolutely. Well, we've gotten so many compliments from people, both like critics and just like friends and family, saying how like it doesn't look like it should be on YouTube type of thing, or like how like very cinematic the series overall looks and feels. And it's nice to hear that.
That is really nice to hear.
That's definitely an Ingrid compliment, I'd say. That's like her ability behind the camera is just...
yeah, but we could have not done that,
Yeah.
Yeah, we hired the right cinematographer and we hired the right editors.
We could have fought back about getting the cinematic camera. We could have just told her, look, it's gonna be a DSLR, and that's the end of it. Okay.
Well, that's actually, I was surprised that no one mentioned that as like points where they thought perhaps that this wouldn't work, because that was definitely a point when we were doing budgeting and stuff. And Dylan, I remember you called us on a Monday and you were like, we don't have the money. Like, we don't have it. We don't like, I was like, we have $27,000. What do you mean we don't have the money? And you were like, we don't have it. We just don't have it. Like, and
with no explanation.
I remember at first it was the craziest thing, because I was like, Dylan's crazy. Like, he's so, like, I was like, he's so anxious. He's fine. And then I remember like you talked to Simon for an hour. And then Simon came to me and he was like, Dylan's right. The numbers, they're not there. And I was like, no. And I like checked them and it was, yeah.
There's nothing, and this is so vain of me to say, but there's nothing I like hearing more than like, I'm right, because I actually don't hear it that often. And like, that was one of the few moments like in pre-production, I felt a little validation, because I remember saying like, we are $8,000 over where we should be or something like that, and you guys are like, it's gonna be fine, and then like 2 days later I get a call back and you guys are like, we are way over budget, something's wrong here. And I'm like, I know
it's not fine.
I'm trying to tell you, because I got the first quote for that camera and it was like ridiculous. It was like 15,000 euros, and I was like, this is half of our budget. Like, that's insane. I can't do that. Yeah. I don't remember how that actually worked out. If anyone remembers and wants to enlighten me.
Well, wasn't it just she wanted a different camera, but then we found a similar version, or like a lower tier like cinema camera from RE, like the same company, just like different model that she was good to use and happened to be a lot cheaper.
Also, actually, it should be noted that Ingrid Sanchez, our director of photography, did a fantastic job when we called her and basically told her
the same news
that we were like, hey, like, we have to go lower. Like, there needs to be cuts for this and this reason. And she just
she found the camera for sure. She
just made it work. And like, she hustled to do that in a way that like the project is better for having her. The project is lucky to have
That's
her.
100%. I would also want to say, like, it wasn't just the four of us, being really good partners and collaborators and just working through that. That's the other thing. Like, we did go back for a bit and talk about those early days of just like having moments at each other's throat too, because that's true. Like, you have to work through that stuff in order to be able to work together. It's successes, come from all those hatred moments, right?
Yeah.
And like, maybe it was helpful that we had those moments between the four of us. We'd kind of gotten through them just in the writing phase by the time we started to bring other people on. So then, like, we could have the fights with the other members of our team, but at least the four of us weren't like, you have to get through that phase of growing pains, of discomfort, of figuring out what the dynamic's going to be with all the new people you bring on, with Ingrid, with Virginia, with all the people we brought on. But at least we had established a strong kind of foundation at that point, so we could work things through between us and then come back to these people and say like, okay, we can give you what you need in this department, but we also have to not have this, because that's
100%
the overall project. It needs, I mean, you're right. The fact that we were planning a shoot that we knew was going to expend a lot of our resources, and it was only half of the scripts, was a pretty terrifying proposition.
It was hard to keep track.
And I remember,
of.
Yeah. But, and also the fact that like we were all coming to you, Dylan, and there was a lot on you to like have it all kind of like ready to go when we got there.
I mean,
yeah, we were like,
another reason,
boots on the ground, Dylan.
Another reason why I think we were really lucky to push that out a little further was because my relationship with Dom grew, which just coincidentally lined up perfectly with this project, because I wouldn't have been able to do any of it without her. Like, she was there every day with me, every day, just looking at locations, talking to people, like finding other like solutions to issues, helping me redesign like the Tom basement so it could be like a semblance of an apartment, because we would pay like almost zero money for that place versus like an Airbnb. So that's what I wanted to say is like, yeah, it was really good that we got all those arguments out early, because at some point we become like a really kind of strong group. And I always admire that from like parents. Like, you know, as a kid, you're kind of like, well, dad said this and mom said that. And they're like, yeah, but we're the parents and we always side together, sort of thing. Like, I feel like that's the testament of really great collaborators. Like, I don't have that spiteful bone. Like, no matter what, like they are also my collaborators. They're also the creators of this project. Like, whatever they say goes in these situations. Like, I will side with them. But we were so lucky to have awesome like people like Ingrid, who we could be honest with, and just like she found solutions to make it work in her favor and our favor, and people who really wanted to like be a part of the project and not just like,
yeah, we had Virginia and Ingrid, like the fact that we were able to get two core members who were experienced working in both Europe and LA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How would we have done it otherwise?
And I mean, Dom truly was so invaluable to us. Like, I mean, all of our collaborators, but like I just think about all the people who really showed up for us and went above and beyond. Like, just the fact that, you know, we were able to make this project that looks as good as it does on such a shoestring budget, and like it still blows my mind. And I think it speaks to, honestly, I think it also kind of speaks to the time in life when we were making it, because we were looking for people who were eager to make something, bored by the pandemic, and therefore like giving themselves. Like, people just gave themselves to us in a way that like I'm just so grateful for. And I, like, you know, Simon and I were saying that after we were done shooting, we were so glad, because as wonderful as the experience was, we were excited to not have to ask our friends for favors, so much anymore.
Oh yeah.
And like, I remember like Simon and I started driving people to the airport like all the time, because we were like, anybody need an airport ride? like anyone asked for an airport ride, and we were like, we got you, no worry. You need help moving? We got you. Like, you know, it was because we owe it, you know, we owe it to them, and I still feel that way. So if anyone needs a ride to the airport.
I feel like the other thing that made Amsterdam kind of hard in general, just like kind of setting all that stuff up, was we just didn't have a proof of concept from anybody yet. You know, like, you could look at our past work as filmmakers, but our past work was pretty scarce. So, you know, anybody working with us kind of had to just take it on faith we knew like what we were doing. Again, thank God we just like built our skills with companies and like productions to like build that up a little bit before going into it. But you're working with like Ingrid, and I don't really even remember Ingrid's reel at the time, because like the circumstance was so perfect. It was like so serendipitous that we could get someone who was living that and like just graduated as a cinematographer, that it didn't even matter to me. I was almost willing to just take the chance. So it's really hard to trust that before you see their work. And then once we got to like LA, it's easier because you're doing it for the second time, but you also already know what to expect from these people. Like, you know, you can trust them more because you're not in that like, holy shit, first day, you know what I mean, feeling anymore, which, I mean. Yeah,
but Ingrid's reel was sick. I remember when we brought her on, I was like, we are lucky. We are blessed.
It felt like that Vince McMahon meme of like his face getting more and more excited as things get listed. And it was like, we have a cinematographer who's interested. She works in LA and Amsterdam and was dating someone living in Amsterdam. Her reel's fucking fantastic.
I apologize, Ingrid.
I was like, whoa.
I apologize for not remembering your reel. I'm sure it was amazing. It's probably better now though. Wink. Anyways,
that Aria Mira, baby.
But I mean, I feel like we have to mention just how great and lucky we were to get that team, and like the small contribution is, thank God Emily and Simon can drive them to the airports and you guys put that credit list together. It's like the small thing we can do to say thank you for all those hardworking people.
I really believe in artistic karma also, you know what I mean? Like I also am always down to donate $20 to people's crowdfunding campaigns now, and it makes me feel so good every time, because I'm like, I know how great it is to be on the other end of this, you know what I mean?
Every $20 we got, I remember I was like, yeah, it's $20, you know what I mean? And I would like hit each person up and be like, thank you so much.
I was getting all the emails when someone donated, so every time my phone lit up, I just like fist bump.
How similar was that to like when the view counters started going for the trailer? It was like the same emotion of just like, oh, 50,000, oh, 51,000, like just like
9 views, 10 views.
Like, but seriously, I would wake up every morning and like go and check and be like, oh my God, another 700 views. That's amazing. Like just like that feeling of that increase was that reminded me a lot of the money coming in.
Simon and I had to we actually made we had a serious conversation about how often we would check the YouTube, because we knew we would get addicted to it. We are like, once the series is out, how often do we check the YouTube? And I think we decided on once a day, and that was it. We were allowed one a day, no more, no less, because otherwise I would just watch it. I'd be
counting right up. Yeah, I'd check every morning when it was really going off.
I still check it every morning.
Yeah, how's it looking?
Where are we at right now?
Yeah.
Let's check.
How's it looking,
Let's
Brad?
do a live check.
Let's find out.
I have our least viewed episode up in the background for the video. So if anybody listening or watching the podcast wants to go and check out episode 5, that'd be great.
Episode 1 is at 1,600 views.
All right.
Episode 2 is almost at 1,100. It's at 1,080. Episode 3 is 24 views away from hitting the 1,000 mark. Then the first 3 will be in the 1K club. And let's see. Episode 4 is 391. 5 is 327, and 6 is 400.
Nice.
So people, you started the damn show. Let's see how it ends.
I still want to talk about the moments that were really struggle bus for us as a collaboration. Just really difficult to work together. But now that we're just talking about the episodes, can everyone just tell me their favorite? Because I don't think we've ever talked about that either. I actually don't think I know for the 3 of you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
My favorite episode is episode 6. Obviously,
I think I'm the same. I think
it's our best episode. I mean, wait, it's so funny.
I don't know if I could say it's our best episode, but I couldn't pick anything else than the finale as my favorite. I think,
finale, and
I think 6 is the best episode.
Wow, so we're all in agreement that 6 is the best. Interesting. For me, it's between 4 and 6. I like 4 a lot. I think 4 is a great episode.
4 is my personal favorite, just because I really enjoyed editing that episode. I had a lot of fun with it.
I just really like the music choices. If I'm not thinking about story, I'm just thinking about just overall. I just like the music choices in there. I really like the opening, and then the laptop closing, and then the shots of Amsterdam and LA, and that soft girl song coming in is just so perfect to me, and them getting ready at the same time is so fun. And it kind of it makes me feel those butterflies the first time you're going out with someone, particularly who you also know you're kind of you're allowed to see, but it's a little bit risky because you're also seeing someone else, all that sort of ooh, this is hot and different type of thing. And I think that episode came out great. Every scene in that episode is just awesome. But yeah, 6 is.
I feel like we had moments for each episode, whether it was in the writing or the shooting or the editing process, where we became concerned, oh, this episode might not work. I remember having conversations with all of us throughout, but we would talk about which episode we thought was the weakest or which we were the most scared about. There was a point where it was episode 1. There was a point where it was episode 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way through. I don't know if we ever had those doubts as much for 6, but also if everything doesn't work up to 6, then 6 isn't going to land. It's just going to feel bloated and self-indulgent. Yeah. So I think there was a moment that we had for each episode that we were scared is this working or is this going to work? But that made us then kind of fixate on that episode more for a certain period of time. If we knew there was one in the script phase that was the weakest, we were like, okay, we really need to hone in on this. And same thing in production. All right, we really need to make sure that this works because it's connecting this and this. Same thing in editing. We could watch them all through and be like, actually, this one's less good than the others. So like, let's take like 2 weeks to just work on this one. And it kind of balanced out.
Editing is such a, like, I definitely think of the editing process. And I know that Brian and Dylan were so angry at me for this, but I definitely think it is such a creative process in the sense that you can really make something that isn't there. If you didn't capture something straightforwardly, the way that you wanted, the way that you intended, you can refragment the pieces of your story to come up with something new. And that was always really such an interesting concept to me because I didn't have to do it in practice.
You just get to imagine.
Because like I could like pull from the ether of what we had shot, knowing what we had shot, and then like, okay, like how can I Frankenstein this together to capture this emotion that's currently missing, or like that emotion that's currently missing. And like I remember everyone, including Simon, was very begrudging when I would be like, guys, let's blue sky in post. And everyone was like, this is post, Emily. And I was like, I'll do what I want.
I feel like
yeah.
and at the moment it can get sometimes frustrating because I think that people just don't realize how much work goes into the editing. And we talked a little bit about this side, like, you know, when you put together that credits, like you could see how much you have to go through. My only change from editing now on with people is that I'm going to make them go and watch all the dailies. Like you have to, if I'm going to go through every clip and cut together everything for you, then like I expect also that you go through every clip and like really know what's available and not available. Because if you don't, then you start sometimes asking things that are just not possible, right? Like you phantom remember a shot or a thing that's just not there. But I really think in hindsight, it was so good that we had you guys as head writers, but also you guys as like in the editing room all the time with us, because I really feel like those two like positions are so similar in a lot of ways. Like a writer is just like creating story with words and an editor is just creating story with clips. Like, and you have the ability as an editor to also, just like you're saying, Emily, create new themes, create new emotions, create new beats, or just like breathing room to like amplify something that a character's feeling. And so being able to be the creators of the show, but also branching off into those two respected roles, I think is what strengthened that story for a lot of people, especially in a 10-minute, 15-minute time frame, because you have to get so much off in such a short amount of time. So it's really hard for me to even pick like the weakest link, because I feel like all of them are just so tight. And like, it's because we were just like together on all those moments, the writing until the editing.
We saw it through from soup to nuts.
But you guys,
soup to nuts.
You haven't heard that phrase before?
No.
No.
It's like soup at the beginning of a meal, like is the first course, to like the little dessert nuts at the end. I think
that
nuts is
dessert
a
nuts.
That
I don't know.
Yeah, that
I've never actually thought about the phrase before, but yeah, I think that's what it means.
Can't say I've ever had dessert
like
nuts
I would understand
before.
like soup to sweets, or like salad to sweets. Yeah,
You're right. That has a better ring to it.
Soup to nuts.
At a certain point, everyone was eating nuts for dessert, and that's when this phrase came about. I don't know.
Those were the
I don't know what you
days.
want me to say.
We went balls to the bisque on this one, guys.
But I mean, I was thinking about that as well in terms of like the editing for you guys. Like you guys edited together episode 2, the ending of it. Like I always forget, like that ending is like you guys taking your words and your clips and then just doing the same thing, right? Just like cutting it in a way that you envisioned it. And Brian and I doing some passes on episodes, I think 3 and 4, like just being a part of that together is really cool. It affirms my belief that like editors and writers are actually very close in terms of like what they do for the project. Some would say the most important parts of the project, possibly.
Agreed.
I feel like I would agree with that, actually.
Yeah. You guys were,
or at least those are the most important phases, maybe.
Yeah.
Of the project.
You need a script and you need it finished. So
yeah, I mean, you look at it that way. It was like writers come up with like the inception of the idea, like just like blank page to story, but editors take all the pieces that are like individually made and they create that thing. Like, no other department gives you the film. It's the editor that takes all those pieces and builds you like the house, is what I'd say. That going off that though, what would you say is your least favorite episode? Like just one that you're like, that's kind of our weakest link. Maybe people could skip it.
No, don't skip any of them.
None, then?
Yeah, I don't. I want to redact that question from the podcast.
Don't skip any, but like one that you're like, I mean, I think you guys all know which one's from me. I've talked to you individually about it before.
Episode 7.
Yeah, episode 7's just dog shit.
Yeah. That's a skip.
Yeah.
That was our Godfather 3. Episode 7 was our Godfather.
Yeah, terrible.
Nah. I think honestly, there are moments from each episode that watching them now, I don't regret, but I do wish like I could change a little bit.
No, I think that's a good point, because I was actually thinking about this as when you work on something for so long and you go through all of the phases of the process, like we've been talking about, the things that start at the ideas that start at the beginning that you're so psyched about, that you're like, this is the most brilliant, most unique, most original, coolest thing ever. Oh, I'm so excited. It's going to look so good. By the end, it's like almost impossible not to like kind of roll your eyes a little bit at everything you've done, because you've just sat with it for so long and you've grown and you feel like there's other things now that you want to do. And you're like, well, I wouldn't do this again, but because that's only because you did it the first time. And you can still sort of, I feel like that's kind of the phase I'm in now. I'm kind of in between that and like the love and nostalgia for the product, the final product of what it is. But there's also this thing of like, oh, good, I'm done with it. Now I don't have to like watch it anymore. Even though I can recognize that it is objectively very good, I almost just have to like put it on a shelf.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, you forget that you're living with the concepts of this, like we said, for 3 years. Like we know the beats, the stories, the characters, the surprises, what they do with what they say. So by the time that it comes out, there's no surprise left, and you've heard it so many times, especially in art. Like when you're doing indie, like post takes forever. It's just the longest part of the entire process. Like how long did that take us? Like 1.5 years to do everything properly almost. So we see it over and over and over again. So it's just hard to imagine the audience seeing it for the first time. So like they're new to the concepts that we're already kind of sick of. And I think it's well said from you guys. Like you roll your eyes at it because you're just like, I don't want to. This is silly.
Well, I watched all the episodes with Catherine. So like, and whenever she reacted to something, I'd be like, "What? You didn't see that come?" So old. This is old to me.
Yeah. No. I. It's interesting too because like, when I was younger, I used to have stress dreams about being in the hallway of my high school and just sitting in the hallway and missing class. Like I would just sit outside the door of my class for an hour, and then like class would be dismissed and I'd be like, I missed my test. And recently that's been like switched out with me on Play by Ear set, literally sitting behind, like back behind everyone running around. And like then Simon coming up to me and being like, the day's over, let's go home. And like I'm like, I missed the shoot. And I just think it's funny that, this project has now become so habitual to me that it's actually become the source of my subconscious terror. Not that any part of the project was I know, but I loved high school. I mean, I didn't love high school, but I loved school and I loved this project. And I think it's just when you care about something so much and you want to see it through to the best of your ability, like it really does take root in you in a way that goes beyond judgment. Like I don't have a least favorite episode because I physically can't say that I'm not like incredibly impressed by every single one.
Yeah, I agree. There are moments.
Agreed.
There's just moments. There's probably not like a least favorite episode. It also, because it's just so difficult for me to separate out episodes. It's like one continuous thing. That it's just not. I don't. It's hard to say like one's better than the other. You can't really finish. You can't really not finish the whole thing. Apparently, other people can. Please go finish it. But like for me, I have to watch it through.
Yeah, well, also, I didn't even think about this until recently when we were actually going to Holly Shorts. We were talking about the projects we've done basically since 2018, essentially when we graduated. And I always think about this as one project, play it by ear, one project, one season. Essentially, it's a feature film in length, but we split it into episodes. But Emily said when we were driving, we were like, well, technically we've made 7 short films in the last 5 years. And I was like, oh yeah, we made 6 short films. And for some reason, putting it in that perspective, as opposed to one project, we made 6 short films. Like, you look at all of our peers, independent filmmakers, it's hard to make a short film. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of resources. And that was like a new switch in my head of like, holy shit, we made 6 short films in X span of time. Like, if someone else told me that, I would be amazed.
I never really thought about that, but yeah, it's a good way to look at it.
Someone told me recently, they were like, you should try and make a project every year. And at first I was like, Emily, you're behind. Like, you've only made one project in 4 years. And then I was like, hold on. One project, 6 episodes. Like 6 episodes in what we said, 3 to 5 years. That's more than an episode.
We're playing with house money. We can take
Karen Twins. You guys have made a handful of other short films in that time too. We made one, but that also, we could also include a feature in that time. I mean, you guys have been, y'all have been really fucking busy.
I'm trying. Yeah, I mean, I'd say that it's difficult to think about how long this took versus how much work it was. Like, I'm always judging it based off, is it more challenging than the last thing we did? Like, that's more to me important, like more important to me actually than, having it be just another project every year. But like, looking at it like that, like 6 projects in 3 years, that's actually 2 shorts a year. That's like fantastic. And the difficulty at which we did it just elevates that for me to be like, you know what, now no other project seems scary, because we had to plan, intercontinental shoots, like lining stuff up, finding locations in 2 different countries. Like, I sound like a broken record because I've talked about it so often, but that's like so difficult. Like, if anything, when I look back at it now, if I had a Simon that told me this will take 5 years and this is what you have to do, I might have just like dropped it at the moment, because it would have freaked me out. Like, it was done because we were just taking it in steps. But looking back on it, it's like such a huge thing to be able to say that we finished, that now nothing really looks scary, to me, as like, like a 10-minute fucking film in a car. Cool, let's do it. Like, that's
it's
fine.
Just making me reflect on how grateful again I am to you guys too, just because like we've been working together now for 3 to 5 years, and that's rare, that kind of ability. Like, we're in each other's lives now, you know what I mean? And of course we were before, but we're not just friends. We're blood brothers.
We would all make it in each other's Wikipedia pages at this point.
Yeah.
If any of us have a Wikipedia page, there would be a hyperlink for each of our names to our Wikipedia page in that person's Wikipedia page.
Yeah. Or
we're all married.
I think the first step would be we're all under the same Wikipedia page. Like, we're just like don't have our own. It's just like one thing.
Just all of it. The article title is just all of our names.
We need a cool name like the Brat Pack.
Yeah.
What's gonna be our name? I don't know.
We have to,
the Fat Pack.
No. None of us are fat. That can't work.
No, FAP. FAP.
Oh, FAP Zone, the Fat Pack. That's whole.
The FAP Zone.
That's perfect. That's great.
Nice. Nice.
This is sponsored by Humpster.com.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been able to get here without our sponsorships from
Going.net.
Yeah, Humpster.com and FAP Zone. You guys.
Okay, I have one
fun
thing.
Go for it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I was gonna say.
Cut you off,
no. I thought you guys had to go, so I'm glad for one more fun thing.
One more fun thing to close off the podcast. To close off Play It By Ear forever. We'll never talk again. This is the last moment. Just kidding. Who can pull the best line from the show to be like the closer of this podcast? That's like the end of the podcast. What's the best line from the show to close the podcast? Emily, you have one? I don't have one yet.
Wait, hold on. Let me think.
I don't know. Something about hands.
Zoe.
That's it.
That's a good one.
Something young you was.
What?
I forgot how young you are.
Oh. If you want me to quit so bad, shouldn't have left me.